I know African and African Americans usually don't see eye to eye, but I'm just gonna say this as an African. And if you're African American or others, Caribbean, whatever, that live in America, I think it's the time for the great exit, man. I think we need to start discussing about the great exit, because in a few years, a lot of people gonna wake up one day and they don't have any rights. You could wake up in the wrong state and you realize that you're not even a citizen anymore because your parents were not citizens when you were born. That is what is about to happen. And from where I'm standing, all my rights are still intact in Africa. And I don't think they're gonna leave soon, anytime soon. So, if you hear my owl.
2 days later.
Any final messages? Habla inglés?
Yep.
You want to say anything?
Not at all.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What you think about it?
I think there's a reason why we have borders. Every country has a right to decide who comes in and who doesn't. And I support legal immigration. It's got to come through the front door. It's like when I have a house, I decide who comes into my house. If somebody climbs in my back window, I decide if they leave. I kind of look at it the same way. What do you think?
So when white people go to Mexico, Mexicans cannot do the same thing that y'all doing.
I don't know anyone that broke into Mexico. If you go illegally into Mexico, they'll deport you.
No, they don't.
They do.
Because when y'all go over there,
You know you can't fly American flag and protest Mexico in Mexico. You'll get deported. You think you should be able to fly a foreign flag in America?
What do you mean?
Like at the protests we see out there, they're flying the Mexican flag. They're burning the American flag and flying the Mexican flag. You think that's okay?
If I really got to be honest, military people, when they went to Honduras, they did the same thing. And nobody could say nothing.
When?
I don't know when, but I see the video.
Okay.
And you think
Look, I don't think you should be able to go into any country without authorization. America, Mexico, Honduras, anywhere. Just follow the law.
Yeah, but you think that's right? When American people put fire on another flag, like Honduras flag?
I don't think anyone should fly any other flag in a foreign country.
That's all.
God bless you, man. What's your name?
Evan. God bless you too, man. Yeah, I appreciate it.
46% with the Hispanics. 46%. Number one with Hispanics.
Guaranteed. Guaranteed. If they already are messing with the Constitution of the United States, which is the law that they created by their founding fathers with their rules and their white supremacy permeated all over that Constitution, and they're doing it to their own people, to their own. What do you think is going to happen with Puerto Rico on the Jones Act? What do you think it's going to happen to the Puerto Rico, to the people of Puerto Rico on the Jones Act? They're going to eliminate it. At one point, Donald Trump is going to say, probably within the next 2 years, he's going to be like, yeah, we're going to pass legislation and we're just going to eliminate the Jones Act. So all Puerto Ricans that are born from this point moving forward are not United States citizens. And then they'll do a plan of decolonization for Puerto Rico, which will be great for the people who want independence for the nation. But can they do it? Absolutely, they can do it. Meanwhile, we can even get deported to another country. It's like, if you don't have your in order and they manage to things up or disappear you from the system or disappear your paperwork, I am telling you right now, if you're Puerto Rican, you should have your passport card and your passport book right now, yesterday. Que tengan buen día. Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
By the time the sun sets tomorrow evening, the invasion of our borders will have come to a halt, and all the illegal border trespassers will in some form or another be on their way back home.
As a second-generation American whose grandparents immigrated to the U.S. legally, y'all need to shut the f up about deportation. It's really not that hard to understand that if you do something illegal, you're going to suffer the consequences. And I don't want to hear any of this. Illegal immigrants pay this much in taxes. Illegal immigrants make up this much of the workforce. So do serial killers. So do thieves. Should we just not arrest them because they contribute to society in some way? No, that's not how it works. You do something illegal, you pay for the consequences of your actions. If you are an illegal immigrant, you can self-report and get completely free transportation, you and your whole family, back to your home country. And a lot of other countries don't have that. Go to Russia and try that. You'll be locked up for 50 years, and you'll probably be tortured and eventually killed. And every single country practices deportation. It's just a fact. But somehow, people in America are the only people complaining about this. Right now, if I wanted to try to go to Canada, France, Italy, Belgium, anywhere, if I tried to go there, no passport, no visas, no paper, and just try to start living there and working there, guess what? I would get deported too, because that's illegal. And then people will say, oh, well, people are getting separated from their families. People are getting taken right in front of their kids. Guess what? If I robbed a bank and didn't turn myself in, and I'm sitting at a diner with my whole family, the police don't give up. They're gonna take me. If you do something illegal, that's just what's gonna happen. And then I hear people say, oh, well, they've been here for 10 years working hard in the US. So you're telling me that they've been here for 10 years and have still not taken the steps to become a legal citizen? That sounds like a them problem. Honestly, there's no excuse. People are so brainwashed that they genuinely want people in our country who have no background checks, no screening. They could be a cartel member for all we know. And they want American taxpayers to provide for them. That's exactly what they want. Again, I come from an immigrant family who worked hard to get here, and it is disrespectful that people think they can just skip the line. People think they're that important, that they get to come the easier way. They get to skip the line. That's not how it works. Follow the law, and you'll be fine. Immigrants are fine. Illegal immigrants, sorry, you're out of...
You smart. You loyal.
2022, this researcher was hired by the oldest and wealthiest university in the country, Harvard University, to help uncover their ties to slavery. In less than a year, he found 900 people that were enslaved by Harvard faculty and staff, and nearly 500 of those enslaved people's direct descendants. He says he was fired because he was finding too many connections and too many descendants. Let's get started and learn something new. Gotta take it back to 1977, where these photos were found in a basement in Harvard, which are possibly the oldest known photos of enslaved people. And then fast forward to 2007, they started doing an informal research of their connections to slavery. Fast forward to 2022, they released an official report with over 100 pages called The Harvard and the Legacy of Slavery. In that 2022 Harvard report, the Presidential Committee recommended that they develop educational partnerships with historically Black colleges and universities, create a public memorial, and the most contentious part, of course, is identify living descendants of people enslaved by university staff, leaders, and faculty. They put $100 million endowment for implementation. So fast forward to the researcher. His name is Richard Cellini. Richard Cellini is not only a researcher, but he's also a trained attorney and tech entrepreneur. So how he was able to find all this information, he admits that he also hires talented researchers and pays them well. In 2015, he had his own independent project at Georgetown University in DC to help locate the descendants of 272 enslaved people sold by Jesuit leaders in the mid-1800s to raise money for the university. He, along with 10 other researchers, found more than 10,000 direct descendants. It's called the Georgetown Memory Project. So he knows what he's doing. When he was approached by Harvard University, he said he was looking forward to it because they seemed really dedicated to this research. And of course, because it's the oldest and wealthiest university in the country, it definitely has direct ties to slavery. So this project would be great. They said it could set the tone for institutions around the country and the world. If successful, Harvard could demonstrate that truth-telling and reconciliation are possible on a large scale, that an institutional culture around silence and historical revisionism can be overturned, and that light can shine even into the deepest crack. And I forgot to include that 2022 Harvard report. Before it was made public, Robert Cellini was approached by Harvard to do the same thing he did at Georgetown University, to do it at Harvard. And when he got there, Harvard had only identified about 70 people that had been enslaved with ties to the university. For the past 3 years, he and other researchers worked with the country's preeminent genealogical institute, American Ancestors, where they found and identified more than 900 people that had been enslaved by university affiliates, faculty, staff, and people in leadership positions in nearly 500 of their direct living descendants. And that's where the problem starts. I'll put a link in the comments for this article. Please go read it. There's so much more to this article. I just don't want this video to be 20 minutes long. Please go read it. I promise you'll learn something new. Now, fast forward to March 2023. Robert Salini is meeting with the uppers of Harvard, and he said that they were informal meetings and that he'd be on the phone and they would tell him not to find too many descendants. He also said at one point the fear was expressed that if he found too many descendants, it would bankrupt the university. According to Robert Salini, he said, give me some guidance here because I'm not finna lie and I'm not finna falsify no evidence. And they said, but we shouldn't report too many descendants. Now, the university denies this. They say the university never issued a directive to him to limit the number of direct descendants that could be identified through the work. He said that he would continue the research, but he wants to get additional funding. He said the amount of work had increased tenfold because of all of the additional names that were being uncovered, all of the slavery connections being uncovered. Now, he said when he asked for more money that they said, unfortunately, you keep finding more slaves. Now, Harvard University denies this, but he did get a budget a fraction of what he asked for. Fast forward to last year, Robert Salini and his team had just came back from Antigua looking at a site that was directly connected to Harvard University. He said he pulled up to Harvard University like any other day, ready to do his research, and he received a call from an HR person who said he and his team were fired effective immediately. He said he was never given an explanation. He said they're the world's best genealogists. Based on his team's research in the Harvard archives, identifying school leaders, faculty, or staff who owned enslaved people and the names of the people they enslaved, American ancestors would then search downstream, as Salini put it, for living descendants. In his new agreement, the organization had taken over all aspects of the research. 2022 Harvard report recommended that they create a committee that was dedicated to memorializing the enslaved people at Harvard University. That was created in 2023. Less than 2 years later, 2 university professors on the committee that created a memorial stepped down, saying the university had attempted to dilute and delay their efforts to reach out to descendants. Then fast forward a couple weeks later, the executive director of the initiative stepped down after reporting conflicts with the university, but she told The Guardian that she left for personal reasons. Robert Salini says the reason that he and his team were fired is simple. We found too many slaves. The university was afraid that identifying descendants would bankrupt the university, and so each name that his team identified was expensive. The work that he oversaw is just the tip of the iceberg, estimating that the numbers of living descendants could be about 10,000 people. I hope you learned something new.
That plane was looking mighty full, wasn't it? But, you know, again, going over the videos, it's pretty interesting looking how everything is falling directly down. Like I keep telling people before, everything has to fall, everything has to affect everybody in order for people to fully understand the totality of what's going on. Because it's not enough anymore for Black Americans to specifically speak on topics, trying to bring awareness, trying to, you know, wave the flag and all of these things, trying to get people to just look at this. Nah, everybody has to suffer. So in one of the videos, you were able to see a group of illegal immigrants, all of them men. They were all on this plane getting placed back to wherever, right? Don't even care. One of the guys wanted to specifically ask a question and stated that, don't you think that it's wrong that this is happening? And the guy was like, no. And I 1000% agree. As he stated before, if I have a home and I have like a fence or a locked door and you proceed to come into that locked door, something should happen to you, basically. And that's 100% true. Every other nation directly out here has borders. They have laws, rules, and regulations. If you want to come over to that country, then you have to do certain things, X, Y, and Z, to come to that country. Now, if you want to come there illegally, you have to deal with the consequences. You might be in a forced work labor camp. You might be on a death sentence. You might be getting executed. You might be locked up in one of their harshest prisons for 50 plus years to never be seen or heard from ever again. Like I said, a variety of things can happen. And nobody has an issue or a problem when other countries stay with and commit to their borders, protecting their people, their culture, and what it is that they have at the moment in time. But for whatever reason, when it deals with the United States, everybody is like, oh, this is racist. How is it racist? You're not saying that for Poland. You're not saying that for anywhere in Europe. You're not saying that for Russia. You're not saying that for China. You're not saying that for Japan. There's a variety of places around the world of which you're not going to say that for. You're not going to say that they're racist. You're going to say that those countries have every right to make sure that their people are safe, that their borders are safe. But when it deals with the United States, magically everybody wants to make a big hoopla. Sounds a little bit crazy, right? In another instance, we had a video of I forgot what the guy was, melanated, whatnot, or whatever. And he was specifically stating that maybe the immigrants, the well-melanated immigrants here from, I'm not sure if it's from the islands, Africa, whatnot, or whatever, that they should think about going back home or elsewhere. I'm like, isn't that a little bit interesting? I'm like, didn't everybody say that Black Americans don't know where is that they came from? Didn't everybody say that Black Americans don't have a culture? They don't have a history. They belong to somewhere, but they also belong to nowhere at the same time, and nobody's trying to claim them, and da-da-da-da-da. But yet all of these people are talking about they might need to make a great exodus. They might need to go right back home from whence they came. Seems a little bit interesting. Seems that everybody is leaving, but one group of people. Who would that? Oh, that's right, Black Americans. Color me surprised. Color me surprised. Now a lot of people are eating crow at this moment in time. Now a lot of people, they're not waving those flags like they used to. They're not puffing out their chest like they used to. Now people actually got to start speaking with a little bit of respect. They got to have a nice tone. They got to speak to us real nice at this moment in time. And like I said, this is what it looks like when a lot of people did not want to listen to Black Americans, when you guys didn't want to quote unquote side with us for your own best interest. You didn't want to follow the directions. You didn't want to follow the lead because y'all felt that y'all built this country. Y'all the ones that built America and made it what it is at this moment in time. You guys are the culture. You guys are this. You guys are that, right? And Black Americans are nothing. But look who's online talking about they just might have to go back home. Technically, you should have been already home, right? If you want to come here and wave your flags like you normally do, you want to come through and you want to get on the internet and have your flags posted all over Twitter, IG, and all this other type of stuff. If you're so proud of your homeland, you need to go right back there. And that's facts. I, as an American, I would never sit up there and be so disrespectful and try to just slap people in the face by pulling up to the scene of somebody else's country waving an American flag. What do I look like? I look like a fool. It looks like I'm seeking attention. It looks like I'm seeking a problem. And depending on the country that I go to, I'm going to get that problem and more. I'm going to get exactly what it is that I'm bargaining for, being stupid and disrespectful in somebody else's country. I would never do anything like that. But like I said, that's the difference between Black Americans and other people. I would be respectful in Japan, China, Africa, Germany, Australia, South America. I would be respectful in these countries, and I would not think at any moment in time that I'm about to start coming through waving the United States flag. Like I said, if the United States is so great, I should actually be there instead of being in a whole nother country waving a flag. But, I guess a lot of people can't, seem to get that directly through their brains. So I'm not even gonna go over the Puerto Rican video. That's whatever. They're gonna have to sit up there and figure that out. Me no black, puppy, me no black, right? So the video that I really found very interesting, and I'm gonna look more into that, and it had to do with Harvard. And you had the great Black woman there speaking directly on it. And this is the main thing that I tried to convey to a lot of people on why our history, Black American history, is so important. Because none of these immigrants out here care about the fact of what it is that Black Americans contributed to, how it is that we affect America, how it is that we're woven, embedded directly into this society, whether they like it or not. Like I said, dealing with Harvard, that's one of the most prestigious colleges. You've heard this all over television shows, movies, mainstream media, whatnot, or whatever, right? Harvard, right? That's a name that rings. If you went to Harvard, people think highly of you. They're not even looking at what it is that you might have studied. It's just the fact that you walked through the doors and you studied there, right? So you find out that Harvard has a history of dealing with slaves. This is not the first time that I've heard about this. But then you had a researcher that was there, and from his own words, Harvard wanted to do some background research to see what links to slavery are basically there, right? And the guy was like, hey, this is going to be a pretty good thing. It's going to be eye-opening, and it's going to, bring a new light when it deals with American history and everything with it, right? So the researcher thought that it would be a very good case to go directly on, and he did that. And towards the end of the video, the lady stated that there were more than likely upwards of 10,000 slaves that have links directly to Harvard. And there's going to be a lot of families that have links directly to those slaves. I might have said it in reverse because I'm trying to go off of, what I've stated. But again, either which way it goes, either if it was just, the slaves, then they found it was linked to 10,000 people directly out there by the lineage of those slaves, or if it was 10,000 slaves and they got family directly out here. Any which way it goes, the fact of the matter is that Harvard did not want to fully go through with it, because they understood that if they continued on, that this was going to look very bad on them. This was going to bring a press of which that they are not prepared to deal with. The guy stated that also this would have potentially bankrupted Harvard, probably in a multitude of ways, because you would have a lot of these families trying to figure out, it's like, yo, you made money off of the backs of our ancestors. Realistically, that school, if at least if we're gonna try to do something, half of that school is ours, right? But white people are not going to give up that school, or even half or even 1% of that school. More than likely, they probably wouldn't even try to extend any type of nicety, such as like, for the people who were the ancestors, the families, the lineage of these slaves, in order to try to make some type of amends, we're going to offer full rides through our school. We're going to give full ride scholarship to those families that have a lineage here, those that are affected. They could very easily start off with that. But I promise you they're not going to do it. And the funniest thing is, let's say if Harvard actually did that right now, the people that would be complaining, let me sit up there and tell you. Number one would be the Asians. Asians are the main ones that help to get rid of affirmative action. They sided directly with white people, and they cut off their nose to spite their face. And now you got Asian Americans out here crying because their total of the population that are supposedly going to these colleges is dwindling by the day. And that's because they sided with the side that they felt that they were honorary white. This is what you get. And you're not getting that back. There's no coming back directly from that. Right? Good job. And I want to say, if I remember correctly, that was done directly under Democratic presidency. Somebody can correct me if you made it this far in this video. You can correct me if I'm wrong, because that didn't happen when Trump was in office. That happened specifically while you had Biden directly out here, while you had Harris directly out here, right? This is when the whole thing of DEI, it was a back and forth on that, affirmative action, and back and forth on that, along with a variety of other things, right? Shout out to the Asian Americans, right? Supposed to be allies. Guess not. And then top of the morning of the main people that are going to be really bickering and arguing and complaining are going to be the white Americans, because they're going to be like, I didn't get a handout. My people were slaves. This, that, and the third. These blacks are always looking for handouts. This was so long ago. I don't know why it matters now. This is unfair to all of the other students that be hard working and done. These are the same people that hook and crook and cheat throughout America. They're the main reason that we have a title such as white collared crime, because white people wear those collars and commit all of that money laundering and those crimes in these corporate jobs. Shout out to Enron. Shout out to that lady, right? Shout out to Bernie Madoff, right? Like I said, there's a variety of instances in America where a lot of these corporations have swindled and robbed people of billions of dollars. Even still to this day, you got the American people getting robbed of billions of dollars. But do you think that these white people are complaining about that? Nope, not at all, because there's nobody black attached to it. But just wait. Just give it a little bit of time. Just let the seasons change just a little bit. Maybe let a water droplet or a snowflake hit the ground. Bow! Up pops white people. And then they're going to start complaining. Oh, I see something black there. Let me start putting on my racist tinfoil cap and start complaining, because you already know how these Negroes are and they don't know their space, and we need to send us back to the 1950s and the Beach Boys where time is great and yada, yada, yada. Right? They want to do all of those things. But they don't want to talk about the real people that's actually affecting America in a negative way and making it the cesspool that it currently is, and the reason that we have trillions of dollars worth of debt. Black people, I don't know anybody black that has crashed a plane where the lifespan of that plane, creative wise, is about 1.3 to 1.7 trillion dollars of American money. I don't know anybody black who had any part of that. Matter of fact, I don't know anybody black who has decided to help the Pentagon have a money black hole directly in it where they can't account for anything. Matter of fact, going back to 9/11, I can't name you any black person out there that can be attributed to the fact of America losing track of $2 trillion before 9/11 happened. Color me surprised on that. Color me surprised. And again, if we look at the debt that we currently have in the United States as a whole, what is it, like 33, 34, 35 trillion? It's almost upwards to $40 trillion. Who's in control of all that money again? I can tell you it's not black Americans. Again, color me surprised on that. But a lot of the people that would complain about Harvard, potentially just theoretically from the ideas that I have, giving the lineage of the family members of those slaves a free scholarship, the amount of complaints that they would have would be astronomical. You would hear Fox News, MSNBC, you would hear all of mainstream media complaining. I'm talking about, you would hear people that are quote unquote Democrats and Republicans both complaining about this crazy work. That, I'm telling you, that'd be one of the main times that you will see them come together, see eye to eye. It's crazy work. But like I said, this is why they want to erase a lot of history. This is why it is imperative for people to do their own research versus trying to wait for mainstream media to tell them anything, because mainstream media is not going to tell you nothing. The only way that mainstream media actually tells you something is by way of social media. That's the crazy part that people don't even think about. You got more innocent journalists on social media than you actually do in mainstream media news. Like I said, I can't tell you over the last 10 plus years how many times I've seen mainstream media decide that they want to, take information and videos directly from social media, and then they want to write a few sentences and some words and then deliver it to the public and then call that journalism. Crazy work, diabolical. But it's whatever people accept, right? But this is America. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about, this video. I know that was last part is probably a little bit too long-winded, but whatever. Let me know what you guys think about this video and everything that I listed in the comment description below. And as always, peace, love, and stay tuned for the next video.